What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the FF Ballbusters podcast. My name is Eric, and I'm going to be doing this episode solo today. My co-host Will is going to be back with me for our videos next week, but I'm just going to be getting into my reaction and biggest takeaways from the blockbuster trade that we just saw go down in the NFL, where the Bears traded back and the Panthers traded up to the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. So just for a refresher, or if you haven't even heard yet, the Bears traded the number 1 overall pick in exchange for 2 first-round picks, one of which being the 9th overall this year, and 2 seconds, as well as DJ Moore. So I'm going to look at this from the NFL perspective first, and then we can get into the fantasy implications afterwards. But NFL perspective, I think the Bears absolutely killed this one. We have seen some rumblings, some rumors that it was possible that the Panthers were willing to give up another first-round pick. It would have been in 2025 instead of offering DJ Moore. And the Bears GM, Ryan Poles, said, no, we need DJ Moore in this deal. You can make the argument whether or not the first would have been better, but I think it makes a lot of sense to take DJ Moore just with what the Bears are trying to do and what they're trying to figure out this year, in that, it's a prove-it year for Justin Fields. They're trying to figure out whether or not he's going to be the future of the franchise. And DJ Moore, giving him that wide receiver talent now is going to be crucial in figuring that out. Because if Fields doesn't improve this year, if he doesn't, make that next step as a passer, they've actually hedged their bet on him with the picks that they acquired in this trade. Meaning in 2024, they could go out and potentially put a package together to get up again to the number 1 overall pick and select Caleb Williams. If things don't work out. So I think you could consider it a vote of confidence in Fields, and they're going to put him in the best possible position to succeed, but they've covered all angles, because even if he doesn't, they're still prepared for the future with or without him. So I think that's great for the Bears. But let's get into the Panthers takeaways. In all likelihood, they weren't going to be able to get a quarterback at 9. With everything that we've been hearing, just the buzz around this quarterback class, all 4 of the top guys were probably going to go in the top 5 to 7. So if they had stayed at 9, there was no way they were going to get, their future quarterback. So they needed to make a move in order to secure that guy. Obviously, it was expensive. It took a lot to do it, but I think it probably makes sense. There's also been talk that they haven't decided exactly who it is that they're trading up for. I'm not sure that I buy it, but, potentially they're still deciding. And if that's the case, they could still trade back with the Texans or the Colts to recoup some of the value that they used in order to get up to the number 1 pick. So that's still in play here. But just as far as the Panthers roster as it is now, without DJ Moore, they're completely devoid of receiving talent. It's really, really rough. Their wide receiver core right now is Terrace Marshall, Laviska Shenault, and Shi Smith, which that's rough. It's really bad. And a really bad look for the incoming rookie that's going to be placed into this situation. On top of that, they had to trade away a bunch of picks in order to get to number 1. So they won't have those to use to surround their quarterback with good young talent. And on top of that, even further, it's a bad free agent class at wide receiver. So we don't know who it's going to be yet. If it was my guess, I think it's going to be CJ Stroud. And I do really like CJ Stroud, but it's going to be a tough situation for him to walk into, or for whatever quarterback it is to walk into with the Panthers. The reason for CJ Stroud being my guess is, one, just the way that he impressed at the Combine. He was already in contention with Bryce Young for the number 1 overall pick, but there's been a link with Josh McCown, the new quarterback coach of the Panthers. He put out a video kind of breaking down CJ Stroud's tape, and he was just fawning all over him, seemed to be in love with the guy. So it seems most likely that that's going to be where they go. So just kind of a guess for the quarterback class as a whole. Stroud probably goes number 1. I would imagine Bryce Young goes 2 to the Texans. And that probably leaves Anthony Richardson ending up in Indy at 4. Again, all speculation, but we're having some fun here trying to figure things out. If that is the case, that's a fantastic landing spot for Anthony Richardson. Probably the best supporting cast of all of the teams that are picking early in the draft. And also he gets to pair up with Shane Steichen, who we just saw help develop Jalen Hurts from a primarily rushing quarterback to a pretty well-developed passer, and one that made it all the way to the Super Bowl. So I think that would be a fantastic pairing and would help Anthony Richardson a ton in his development early. I do wonder, though, if they want to secure Anthony Richardson, the Colts I'm referring to, if they would have to trade up one spot with the Cardinals in order to do so. Because I would imagine that the Raiders and potentially even the Seahawks might try to trade up in front of them with the Cardinals to get that third quarterback off the board. So that's the breakdown of the kind of NFL side, but now let's get into the fantasy implications, where the biggest winner is obviously Justin Fields. If you have Justin Fields in Dynasty, you're ecstatic, you're over the moon. I'm one of those people. I'm really, really excited for this move. He finally gets his clear-cut wide receiver one in DJ Moore. He still has Mooney, Claypool, and Kmet in now complementary roles, which I think will suit them even better. The Bears now have extra picks that they've acquired that hopefully they'll use to bolster the offensive line, give him some more time back there because that was one of the worst units in football. And then if Fields takes that next step in his development and the Bears commit to him for the future, again, more speculation, more having fun here, but the Panthers' first-round pick in 2024, I would imagine, is going to be really early. So maybe we see Marvin Harrison Jr. to the Bears in 2024, give Justin Fields even more wide receiver help. Who knows what's going to happen, but I think this is a really, really good sign for Fields. I think stocks are way up for him, so love to see that. For DJ Moore, I've seen people all over the map on this one. I've seen people argue that this is bad for his fantasy outlook. They think Fields is a bad quarterback, a bad passer, and the Bears are run heavy. And, you could make that argument. I think that that's fair. I would argue that Fields isn't worse than the assortment of the quarterbacks that the Panthers had last year. I would also say that the Panthers were the most run-heavy team in the league from Week 7 on last year. I know that the Bears were down there, and if you want to say that Fields was equal to what Sam Darnold was doing, sure. But at worst, this is a lateral move for DJ Moore, in my opinion. I've also seen people on the opposite end of the spectrum arguing that this is great for DJ Moore. Saying that we've seen this before, where, Jalen Hurts gets his wide receiver in A.J. Brown, Joe Burrow gets Jamar Chase, Josh Allen gets Diggs, Kyler gets D-Hop, now Fields gets Moore. I really like both Fields and Moore, don't get me wrong, but DJ is easily the worst receiver on that list. And Fields, statistically, has been a much worse passer than any of those quarterbacks were prior to getting their wide receiver upgrade. So I don't think it's, an apples to apples comparison. I don't think it's a 1-to-1. I think both of these guys are worse than any of those that we were comparing them to. But if you want just strictly my opinion, I think it falls somewhere in between. I know that's not the sexy or exciting take. But I believe in Fields probably a little bit more than most in his ability to step up as a passer in 2023. And in turn, with that development, I think that the Bears will also increase their pass volume, even if it's incremental, even if it's not a ton. So I think it is a slightly positive change for DJ Moore's fantasy value overall. And also, like I said earlier, if Fields doesn't pan out, if I'm wrong about that, the Bears could still draft a Caleb Williams or a Drake May in Moore's age 27 season. So if he's still on the team and they make that change, then, up to you whether you decide that's a quarterback upgrade. I think those guys are really, really good. So I think, not to the level of Justin Fields, but stocks are up for DJ Moore just by a hair. And then for the ancillary pieces that go along with this trade, Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool, I guess stocks are down by a little bit. They were already low volume. Decrease in targets is probably going to be balanced out by a lack of pressure on them to be the wide receiver one and to absorb, the best DBs on opposing teams. So they're going to get, the third string, the fourth string DBs, and potentially just a better offense for the Bears as a whole could offset, any difference with DJ Moore coming in and making it a more crowded wide receiver room. Cole Kmet, again, maybe a slight decrease. He was kind of the security blanket for Justin Fields, and I think that DJ Moore is definitely going to eat into that role. Kmet was pretty touchdown dependent anyway, and I think that'll still be the case. So not a huge change, but maybe a slight downgrade there. And then lastly, on the Panthers side, I'm not buying into Terrace Marshall or Laviska Shenault. Those guys, they face planted as prospects, and Carolina is going to be doing their best to add receiving options immediately. So if there's anybody out there that still believes in those guys, I think now is your sell window. That's what I would recommend that you do. But yeah, so that's going to wrap up my thoughts, my opinions, my breakdown of the Bears trading the number 1 overall pick. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. That would be much appreciated. Engage with us. We also did just create a Discord channel for people in the audience. If you want to go get into that, I will link that in the description below. You can talk to us there as well. If you liked the video, if you learned something from it, let us know by leaving a like. Much appreciated. Helps us out a ton. Subscribe if you want more quality fantasy football content that we are putting out each and every week. And with that, I think that wraps it up. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.